Here's a scenario. You're sleeping. You're in the middle of nowhere. You're on your off-grid property, your homestead. You're up in the camping in the middle of a mountain. What do you do when you hear a noise in the middle of the night and you don't know what it is? This is what I do. So last summer, I went on a 4-month tour to the Pacific Northwest from the south. I did one big loop all the way from, the south to Nevada to Utah, all the way up to Oregon, came back to Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado. And I do a lot of dispersed camping when I'm in the middle of nowhere. Now, I do have a couple of security options that I carry with me, as well as my 90-pound German Shepherd Hoku. And she will alert me in any kind of situation, whether it's animals, people, or noises. Having that as one of my security options is perfect. Now, besides that, I do carry a firearm or firearms with me as well. And today I'm going to be talking about camp security and one of the pieces of equipment that was sent to me by a company called Brinyte. Now, living here on the homestead at my off-grid property, I do have a lot of woods that I'm in. And having a lot of woods attracts a lot of animals, we're talking deer, we're talking raccoons, possums, snakes, birds, turkey, and all that good stuff that comes with the woods. Now, living here at the homestead at my off-grid property, I do have a lot of woods in the back of my cabin. There's so much woods, it's actually kind of black out there, even during the day. It looks like the Sherwood Forest or the Black Forest. But I do have a lot of wildlife coming through here. I do have deer, I do have turkeys, birds, snakes, raccoons, rabbits. Now, I do have a lot of security items implemented here. For example, we're talking about motion lights, LED solar powered motion lights. I have them scattered throughout the front of the cabin, the side of the cabin, the back of the cabin. And I also have my Devos Light Ranger lights on motion. I do have some other kind of lighting also available, but security is pretty important for me, and I hope you take it into consideration as well, especially in today's world. Man, the world we live in has gone crazy, and I am a big Second Amendment advocate. Now, I've carried a firearm and a weapon with me for the last 40 years. We're talking from the military all the way to the police department until now. And if I don't have it with me, I feel kind of naked or something's missing. But having a good firearm with you is pretty important, like I said, in today's world. But not only carrying a firearm, you have to adhere to your local and federal regulations in your state if you're going to carry from state to state. Also, training. A lot of folks end up getting their CWP or your concealed weapons permit, and you take the training, and then you finish your training, and that's it. You don't train anymore. And carrying a firearm, having the proper training or proficient training is very important. Training on I wouldn't say a daily basis, but having training, maybe once a month, getting familiar with your firearms, because there are a lot of factors that come into when you're going to use it in a situation. Now, training and proficiency is a big part of a firearm or carrying a firearm, because you need to know your weapon. You need to know if something goes wrong, if you get shot in the hand, clearing your weapon. Muscle memory is very important. If you don't train yourself with your firearm, when it hits the fan, you are going to revert to what you trained on. Now, a lot of folks I know, we do a lot of training. I don't do a lot of static shooting, meaning static mean you go to the indoor gun range, you go ahead, fire at a couple targets, and that's fine, but I do a lot of dynamic stuff. I like moving and shooting, because in a real life situation, you're not going to stand still when the threat is there. You're going to be moving through, moving. Your heart rate's going to be up. You're going to be, your heightened awareness is going to be through the roof, and there are certain things that happen when you do get in that stressor, in that situation, unless you train your body. Now, during training, you need to stress your body. So when the real life scenarios happen, you are prepared. Now, the impact of high stress environments is pretty important, because during these situations, your blood pools to your vital organs. You're going to lose dexterity. You're going to, a lot of folks, during high stressful situations, when they fire a firearm during a high stress situation, they are asked, how many rounds did you shoot? Or how many rounds did you put through your weapon? And a lot of them don't remember, they get that audible exclusion, so the typical spikes initially due to the sudden loud alarm triggering a fight or flight situation or response. Now, when I say fight or flight, your body's going to do two things. You're either going to get in the fight, or you're going to flight, or you're going to shut down, or you're going to. I've seen a lot of folks freeze during some high stress situations. So my recommendation is to go out there after you get your firearm, is to train and get familiar with it. Now, there are a lot of companies out there that do firearm trainings, or if you have a buddy that's former or prior or even law enforcement, they can help you train for these high stress situations. We're talking about, shooting from, at a distance of a couple feet, or a distance, from 25 feet. But most of the threats that you will incur will be in a close range. I would say, 8 to 10 feet or even closer. Now, having that proper training also to keep your family safe, keep you safe, or keep others safe. And remember, if you pull that trigger on the firearm, you cannot get that round back. So one, you got to make sure what's in back of your target, or what's in back of your threat. And or had proper training that the use of force triangle, or the deadly force triangle, is met with ability, intent, and opportunity. And when I say the deadly force triangle, it is a core framework used by law enforcement and in self-defense training to determine the use of lethal force that is legally and ethically justified. And when I say legally, if you went to court, will you be able to articulate why you have pulled that trigger and shot that individual, or shot that threat, or stopped that threat? Like I said, you can't get the round back. So enough with the mumbo jumbo, jabber, jabber, jabber. Let's talk about some firearms today. Now, I've carried a lot of firearms in the past. I mean, every pistol you can think of. In fact, back in the 1980, mid-80s, when I was in the Navy, I qualified on a 1911 and a 45 caliber. We're talking 6 rounds. And 6 rounds nowadays isn't very much, especially with the firepower out there. But I can remember going to the range in the military, 1985, when I just got in. They hand you a 1911, and Fast forward to the 90s, early 90s in the United States Coast Guard. I qualified on the Beretta 92F. We carried that. It was a great firearm, and it was really easy to handle. It was a nice weight, and it was pretty accurate. Well, after I got out from the military, actually we transitioned while I was getting out to the SIG Sauer models. So, but I never qualified on that because I was already retired. Now fast forward to 2000s, and now I am with the Greenville City Police Department, and we carried, I was issued a SIG Sauer P226. And let me tell you, that was one of the best firearms I've ever used and carried. The weight, the accuracy, and the round count as well. But you would have to train. I had to get used to carrying a firearm with a decocker. So, you know, in a stressful situation in the past, I spent 20 years using a firearm, and now transitioning to something with a decocker. And when I left the city of Greenville to go work at another agency in the Travelers Rest Police Department, I was issued a 40 caliber. So a Glock 22. And so now going from a heavier firearm that was really had a nice trigger pull. Let me tell you, the trigger reset and all that stuff was unbelievable. Now I'm carrying a Glock 22, which is a 40 caliber firearm. And that was a little bit getting used to too. Now I've had Glocks in the past, but I really got spoiled with the trigger reset and the trigger pull of the SIG. So we carried the 40 for a little bit, the Glock 22. And they realized that the ballistics on the 40 was the same pretty much as the 9mm, but with the 9 you had higher round count. So we shifted to the Glock 17. And you know, this Glock 17 was a 9mm. And you know, so that's what I carried for the rest of my career and to the end. Now my off-duty carry, I carry a Glock 19, which is also a 9mm. But being proficient in all those different firearms, you have to shoot them all the time. So this right here is my Glock 17. It's a 9mm, and they let me keep this, or gave it to me when I retired from the police department. But before we start, let's make sure this weapon is safe. As you can see, there is no magazine. That weapon is clear, and you can see there's nothing in the chamber, no magazine. And now the weapon is cleared. Now this right here, I'm going to talk about gear or accessories for the weapons. Now this right here, I do have a TLR-1 HL. Now I've carried this for years. Now I'm sure they make the TLR 8, 3, 4, or 5 now, but I've always carried this on my my Glock, and I used to make holsters. Well, I don't anymore, but I used to make a lot of Kydex holsters for a lot of law enforcement, first responders, and people, Second Amendment enthusiasts. But I did make this one right here. This is a Kydex holster formed to a TLR-1 Lite, and fits right in there. I do have a belt loop on the back that I can carry, but this is a fairly big pistol to carry concealed because of the larger frame and the longer slide. Now the Glock 19 is perfect to carry as a concealed weapon, and I'm going to show you another weapon that I have made by Palmetto State, and it's part of the Glock. It was created on the Glock platform, I should say, because a lot of the Glock's components can be used on that Palmetto dagger. So this right here is my Scorpion 9mm. This is a EVO 3 S1 model. Now let's make sure this is clear. As you can see, there is no magazine in the well. It is clear. And I do have a bunch of accessories on here, but this one right here can hold a 30 round magazine of 9mm. And this is what I carry around here, or when I'm, going out in the middle of nowhere, because I like having a firearm that can have a lot of round count. Now, on a firearm, you do want to have some pretty decent accessories on there. This one right here, I do have some Magpul flip-up sights, and front and back. And I also do have a H1 Aimpoint H1 Micro on here. Now, having a good optic on your firearm is very important, because you don't want a cheap made optic on there. Now, this one has a really good clear glass, and let me tell you, a good optic is going to run you quite a bit of money. Now, at the time of this purchase a couple years ago, this Aimpoint H1 was about $600. So, but it has lasted, and it's been a great optic. But there is something that I'm lacking on this firearm. Now, this right here is the Brinyte XP22 MK3. It is a dual-headed rail-mounted light with a green laser. I did have a light on my Scorpion, but it was removed because I am going to try out the X22. Now, the X22 is a flat-mounted flashlight or light with a green laser. No batteries are required in here, because it has a rechargeable battery in here. Now, the pros and cons, okay, let's talk about the pros and cons of a light that does have batteries or is rechargeable. The pros is you don't have to carry extra batteries with you because it's all internal. The con is you gotta make sure these things are charged up, because there's nothing like having a failed light in a situation that you're gonna have to use. Now, when Brinyte reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to try out the XP22 MK3, I said, sure, why not? Because I was intrigued because of the width or the flatness of it. And this would have made a great addition, or makes a great addition, to my CZ Scorpion, where I can put on the side without it being bulky. So what is the Brinyte XP22 MK3? It's a dual head light, and it's versatile for high performance portable light built for demanding outdoor and tactical scenarios. Now, it does have dual LED systems, and I will show you that in just a second. It would burst up to 1600 lumens. This thing gets pretty warm, and it's supported by a long-lasting battery life. Like I said, we'll go into that a little bit more in detail. It features a green laser with a precision fixation designed for enhanced stability, and offers both constant and momentary on modes. Now, they do sell a touchpad or on and off pad with this, sold separately. I did not get that one, but the buttons on the top make it very easy to turn on and on. Now, with that optional wired pressure switch, it enables you effortless control at your fingertips. Now, one of the features on here is the dual light design, the dual light performance. It delivers 1600 lumens with a 374 beam range, and it's perfect for hunting, training, and tactical use. And that thing is pretty bright. And then it has a precision green targeting laser. Now, it also comes with a green laser, and I don't know if you guys can see that right there. And we'll get more into it in just a little bit. Now, let's talk about weight. This thing only weighs 135 grams. That's right. The ultralight body is awesome. Now, it does have a rugged protection. This is aircraft aluminum. It's IP66, so it's rated for all-weather reliability. You can get it wet and you don't have to worry about it. Now, it does have multiple modes. You have single and dual light, momentary, constant, strobe, and memory modes that you can use with this. And then for charging, if you look on the side right there, it does have a magnetic base charging port right there. And all you do is put the charging cord right to that magnetic base, and you can charge. Now, this thing is fast charging as well. Now this internal battery on the XP22 MK3 is a 1100 milliamp battery, and charging this thing is pretty fast. I think it only took me an hour to fully charge this light. Now it does have 3 modes, a high, strobe, and laser. The high mode, like I mentioned, is 1600 lumens. The strobe is also 1600 lumens. And the runtime on a full charge is 65 minutes. Now I told you that the weight was 135 grams. Now the dimensions are pretty small. From the head diameter, we're talking less than 3 inches. The height of this thing is only 1.16 inches tall, and it's only 4.57 inches in length. When you purchase your XP22 MK3, you're going to get the unit itself. They're also going to give you a charging cord, and it's pretty long. I say it's about a good 2 feet, 3 feet, but this is the end. Let me see if you guys can see that. Here, this charging port will attach to the magnetic base right there, just like that. And when it's charging, you will see a red LED light, and when it's fully charged, it'll turn green. And then of course, you're going to get your manual, and they're also going to give you, now if you look at the back of the XP22, you will see that there is a Picatinny rail adapter right there, and this one says 1913, and I don't know which one that is for. Hopefully it fits on the Scorpion. If not, you do have a second spacer or a Picatinny rail right there in the bag, so one of those will fit. Now installing this is pretty easy. All you have to do is loosen the knob and then place it on the rail, and then push the screw or knob through, and then tighten it up with a screwdriver or a coin or anything like that. And that's it. It's pretty simple. And it does have, like I said, the dual lights on here. Now the operation of this light is fairly simple. You have 2 ways you can turn it on. You have a side button there, which will turn on the light, both dual lights, and then to shut it off, you just hit the on off button here. If you want to use the pad, you go ahead and you can set it up that way by touching that. And you can go straight to the strobe by double tapping, and you get the strobe effect in there. Now you also have the option of using the green laser, using that push button here, and you can see that. Or if you want the combo, you can leave that green laser on and then hit the on off. It's pretty hard to see, but it does have 2 of those options running right now, and then shut it off, and then you can just shut off your green laser. Now installing this on the firearm is pretty easy. All you do is loosen the knob, and then you can push it in, and you can see it adjusts for the width of the Picatinny rail. So let's go ahead and put this on. Now I can mount this underneath, but I would have to remove this little handle as well. But it is pretty close to the flash, so I don't know if that's gonna be an issue, but I'm gonna test it out and try it out that way. But there it is, man. It's so simple to get it on your firearm. Now this is a PSA dagger. It's a 9mm, and it's also cleared, if you guys can see that. And the only thing with a small frame pistol is the XP22 is won't be able to mount on there. As you can see, I have nowhere to put it. So if you're going to use the XP22 on a small frame, it will not work. So what are my overall thoughts on this light? Well, for the price and what you get, it's pretty decent. You know, right now it's on sale on Amazon. I think they're a little over $100, and they do come in 2 colors. They do come in a flat dark earth and a black. Now, pros and cons. Everything I review has pros and cons. And the con is that it will not fit on a small frame weapon. If you're using a small frame and you want a light, I would just go ahead and get like a TLR Mini or something small for that, because this extends farther than the slide itself, and you won't be able to connect it. Now the pro is that this will be perfect for any kind of rifle, AR platform, you know, AK, and it is pretty rugged and stout. And having a green laser in there with the dual 1600 lumen light is pretty awesome. Now, is 1600 lumens too bright? It all depends. Some folks saying that's too bright, it backlights off of surfaces, but when you're out in the middle of nowhere and need all that lumens, you have that as well. Now there are other lights that you can adjust the lumens on it, but you know, overall for the price and what you get, I like the slim line of it, you know, and the width and the weight is fairly light. And we want to thank Brinyte for sending us the XP22 MK3 for testing and review. And if you're interested on one of this, you can go to the brinytestore.com, or you can go to their Amazon store and pick you up one of these. And if you get it and order it now, you'll get this before Father's Day. That's right. Father's Day is just around the corner. So this makes a great gift for Dad. And yeah. So anyway, if you got any questions, pop them in the box below. I'll answer them the best I can. And just remember, you know, training yourself. So train with your firearm, become proficient, become used to it, gain that muscle memory, and have fun while you do it, but be safe. If you got any questions, let me know, and I'll answer them the best I can. Until the next video, this is Ben and my XP22 MK3 out.